Hi guys, well today I'm going to be comparing two foundations that I mentioned in my February favorites, I think. No, a haul, my recent haul video. So I had picked up one of them because it was listed on my Sephora ID. So for those of you that don't know, Sephora has like kind of a foundation matching system online and you can go in the store. I tried it at first and I didn't really like it until kind of I figured out how to play with it a little bit. So you basically, pick a foundation from their list. Of course, it has to be one that they carry. One that matches you, and then you put in like your skin tone or something like that. And then they give you a list of what foundations in that color range would match you. Now, of course, keep in mind, not every brand's going to be listed because they may not have one that works for you. And up at the corner, you can go like one shade lighter, one shade darker. So I actually have two saved. But this foundation was one that was recommended. And I have to say, the color match was dead on, like perfect. So I highly recommend that if you already know of a foundation that you love the color and it works for you. Try that because then it kind of takes the guesswork out of if you want to try some other foundations. So the one I'm talking about, like I mentioned in my haul, is the Guerlain Lingerie De Peau. And I picked it up in the color 12, which is Rose Claire, and that was the color that was recommended for me. And like I said, it is a really good match. And let me just say, this video is just going to be me putting my thoughts out there on what I like and didn't like about both of these. It's not like a real formal review or anything. So I have to say, it's very expensive, but when you get a certain age, or at least for me, and I know there's probably others of you out there, you're willing to try different things and more expensive things because you're willing to try basically whatever's going to work. You're just trying to look your best the older you get. So I'd heard some good things about this foundation, so I wanted to try it. It comes in a really nice glass bottle. It's extremely heavy. I'm not sure it's the best for travel because of its being heavy and being glass, but it's very pretty just setting, on your vanity. Comes with a pump. So here you can see the shade right here. And like I said, that was in the number 12, Rose Claire. So I liked that. I used it for, several days. There were a few things about it I didn't love. It does apply very nicely. I feel like it's pretty medium to full coverage. You can build it a little bit, but it's very thin. So for instance, the consistency, just put it a little bit out here. If I was to leave my hand like this a long time, you can see it's starting to run a little bit. So it is pretty thin, but it blends very easily. But surprisingly, you get pretty good coverage with it being thin. That's what I like. It's thin so it doesn't look cakey on your skin, which is great. So then it looks normal, you look still like skin, but you get coverage. To me, that is like the ultimate foundation. You want coverage, that's why we wear foundation, but you want it to still look like skin. For instance, there's many foundations I love and they're great for like filming or getting really made up, but in person it may look, like, oh, you've got foundation on. And when you get older, you just really, that's like such a fine line to balance because you don't want something that's actually going to make you look older. I like that foundation, wore it for several days, but I noticed sometimes it would settle, and I've said this many times, my areas around my chin and mouth, because that's where I break out a lot, it would settle a little bit. I have pretty big laugh lines, like, not only right here, but out here when I smile. And because I've had some acne scarring out here, it's not, the smoothest of texture right here. Well, I just noticed sometimes it was not even settling, but I would just notice some lines that maybe I didn't even realize I had. But the rest of it would look great. And I loved the finish because while it's not matte, and I wouldn't say it's dewy, it's like a very nice satin. Like the light, you can see, I don't know if you can tell when I move, especially towards the light a little, light will still reflect off. Like you'll get a nice glow, but it's definitely not a dewy feeling. I've been applying this with my fingers. I've tried it with a brush. I've tried it with a beauty blender. I actually like applying it with my fingers, and that's really hard for me to say because for so long I've used a brush or a beauty blender, and putting anything with my fingers is kind of like, you know, I don't like that. Of course I have clean hands right before I do it, but I really like the finish and the coverage of putting it on with my hands. I feel like it blends easier. The Beauty Blender sheared it out too much. I think because it's a thinner consistency to begin with. It just, to me, sheared it out too much for my liking. A brush was okay, but I just find I get the best application using my fingers. I don't necessarily have to powder it. I do, however, usually powder my nose and my chin because that is where I'm going to get oil breakthrough more quickly. And of course, anywhere that I've maybe put extra concealer, I always powder over that. But I would say you definitely don't need to powder. I'm combination, normal combination, depending on the time of year. I can be combination dry or combination oily. So I don't have to necessarily powder. But if you're really oily, you may want to. If you're really dry, of course you won't have to. It dries to a very, it just feels like your skin. That's the only way to explain it. It doesn't necessarily feel overly powdery or anything like that. It just feels like your skin. Like, you know, you just have great skin. So because I liked that one, but there were a few little things that I wondered. And by the way, this isn't the most long wearing foundation. You may have to touch up throughout the day if you have a really long work day. You know, just bring some powder, some concealer, because you may get breakthrough like around your nose or those typical areas. So with that being said, I wanted to try their more long wearing version just to see if it would help those few little issues I noticed, because this time of year my skin kind of goes back and forth between being dry or being a little bit oily. And then I also have some other skin issues going on where I'm really jumping back and forth. I feel like one day my skin's dry, the next day it's a little more oily. So I thought, let me try the long wearing version and see how I like that one. So because I already had the Lingerie De Peau in the color 12 Rose Claire, I thought, let me see about a different shade, just in case, like when I get a little more color. So I picked it up in the color 2, which is Beige Claire, and I know that's like a pretty popular color for most people. Let me tell you, this is dark. This looked like I have on a pretty major self tanner, and this is the Tenue de Perfection. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but this is what it looks like. Let me just show you the difference in color. I thought in my mind, because I have a slight pink undertone, I really like neutral because I can change back and forth. Like if you look at my veins, they will often look bluish green, not necessarily just blue. Never just green, but sometimes a bluish green. And neutral, you know, is the best for me. But because this has and I say slight pink undertone, to me it's actually more neutral. I don't think it really leans towards having a cool undertone at all. But in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is number 12, which is the rose. So I thought number 2, maybe that's just the more neutral of the two. No, you can see the huge difference. I was so shocked. And so don't let that fool you on color ranges. I always look at all the color ranges because depending on the brand, they separate their range. It just doesn't go from lightest to darkest. They separate their range sometimes from warm to cool or however they may do it. So keep that in mind. I always just look over all the color range to see what it says the undertone is. So you can see this is a huge difference. Now, keeping the color aside, since the color didn't really work for me, I was just looking at the finish. And even in the middle of the summer, I don't even know if I could get a deep enough tan. So this is the same thing, exact same bottle. They look, really similar, same pump. This, however, I feel like is slightly thicker. So I could just leave my hand like that and it's not going to run. I don't know if you can even tell that. It is definitely thicker. Still thin, but thicker than the Lingerie De Peau. So, okay, talking about this one. It definitely, I had to leave myself a few notes here. It definitely sets quicker. They both set fairly quick, but I have time to mess around with the Lingerie De Peau. This one, the Perfection, sets quicker, so it's definitely, because it's more long wearing, I feel like it's a slightly drier formula. It still gives you that satin matte finish, not totally matte. Again, I can move in the light and see it across my cheekbones. So it's a really nice finish. The finish is very similar to both of them. The only thing with this one, it was slightly dry looking around my mouth. And I don't know if that's just because the few days I tried it, maybe I felt a little drier. But it definitely wasn't all that flattering around here. It just kind of, and it doesn't even settle in. It just looked a little more cakier or thick around my chin area. Again, that's my problem area. It has the same skin-like feel as the other. Like I said, they are extremely close. I definitely do think the Perfection wears longer. So if you're looking for, you know, something to get you throughout the whole work day and even maybe then some, I would say this, you'd get at least a good 6 to 8 hours. You may still have to touch up after that. I didn't notice anything breaking down, but I did notice throughout the day, again, right here and here being my problem area, just because of old acne scarring, I can tend to look almost like wrinkly and the texture is not smooth, if that makes sense. So it seemed to just kind of settle in here, and like I said, not really break down, but I had to like pat in here like this to kind of just smooth it out a little bit. Like it just seemed to settle. So for that reason, I did not care for this one as much, because basically they wear the same. I do like the formula of the Lingerie better because it gives a slight less matte look. Even though the finish is very similar, it just doesn't look as cakey on me. I have worn this in the Lingerie De Peau in a few videos. Every time I have, you guys have complimented me on my makeup or my skin, so thank you. I definitely think it's a combination of probably the foundation and the camera, maybe the lighting, but I think a lot of what you're seeing is the camera. You're just seeing more true color. That other camera was definitely making me look a little more blotchy, a little more red, and it was great at first. So I think the camera was just wearing out, had a problem, whatever. But I haven't really been doing anything different. I know a few of you have asked. This is just a really great foundation, no matter the price. I know it's really expensive, but like I said, as I get older, I'm just looking for what works. Cost, you know, I'm trying not even to factor in, as crazy as that might sound. You know, I'm going to spend more money on skincare. I'm going to spend more money on a foundation if it works. So for me, the winner is definitely the Lingerie De Peau. I really love this. However, if you are oily or looking for a longer wearing foundation, you'll still get a lot of the same benefits for the Perfection. I just don't care for it. Like I said, shade aside, I could overlook that and just, you know, look at what it was doing to my skin. This I really like, and, you know, I've heard feedback from you guys saying, too, that you really like it when you see it on, and of course, I am wearing it today. I got both of mine at Sephora. Again, check out the Sephora Color Match ID if that helps you with anything, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, if I forgot to cover anything, I'll try to put notes, but if you guys have any questions, leave me a comment below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.